Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus and today should be a relatively short one. And yeah, indeed, you're looking at a deck of standard playing cards here because more by accident I stumbled upon a little game called Scoundrel, which is more or less a dungeon crawler that you simply play with a deck of playing cards here. And I really wanted to give this a try on the channel. So let me know if you heard about this, and if so, let me know how well you did. I'm relatively certain I will not make it here, but ultimately what it is, we are trying to make our way through not fully 52 cards. I believe you're removing some of the cards. It's somewhere around 46, 48 cards or so that we have to go through here. And if we are successful and not dying on the way down through the dungeon, then we have made it. There is a way to tally up your score, but ultimately I think I really want to survive. If you don't make it, I think you're still tallying up your points somewhat with negative points, but I'm relatively certain that's what we will see today. So I will basically do the setup here, which again is fairly simple. You take all these cards. I think the only cards that you are removing are the jokers. And yeah, of course, we don't need these cards. And the red face cards here, and I believe I already forgot, let's say missed that up. So it's not just, so everything that's red and has a face basically on it, plus the ace is getting removed. All the other cards will stay in this deck here. And that's basically the dungeon deck. We don't really have a hand of cards or whatnot. We will simply go through this deck. And then, yeah, I will explain everything as I go. I will shuffle those cards now off camera. And then I think we should be ready to go. Okay, here is our dungeon. And what we will do now is we will go through the dungeon room by room, and a room is always comprised of 4 cards. You have to deal with 3 of them, and then you're moving into the next room. So let's simply do that. So let's reveal our first room here. And one thing I almost forgot, of course, that is, maybe that is okay. Let's see about that. But one thing, of course, we need to do, we need to track our life points somehow. And the way how you do that, you can use a 20-sided die because that's the amount of life points we have. Whenever you go down to 0, you have immediately lost the game. You can never go above 20. So that's again our first room of the dungeon here. Next, you have to know that everything that's red is basically good, but that's also the reason why we have removed a lot of red cards, and everything that's black, that's basically bad. So all the black cards are monsters, the diamonds are weapons, and the hearts are healing potions. Basically, that's what you need to know. You can only heal once per turn basically, and a turn is pretty much a room. If you happen to if you have to deal with 2 healing potions, you simply have to discard one without effect. Again, you can't go above 20 in this case. So drinking this healing potion as your first thing wouldn't make any sense. In this case, I believe we do want to take this as a weapon. You can only ever equip one weapon. If you take a new weapon, you have to discard the old weapon. So we are taking this weapon and placing it basically somewhere here. So maybe let's pan down a little bit. And now we have to deal with 2 more cards. Again, a room is basically finished when you have dealt with 3 cards, then you're preparing the next room. The leftover card stays in the same room. So next, I think we want to take on a monster, and I think we want to go with this monster here. And the strength of this monster, you guessed it already, it's a 9. Our weapon, unfortunately, is only a 3. We can still beat that monster here. You can also find these monsters barehanded, but then you take simply 9 points worth of damage. In this case, we are pretty much doing 3 points worth of damage, but yeah, we are basically, or it's more or less more like a defense in this case. So we are taking 6 points worth of damage. So basically the difference here. So we are going down to 14 life points here already. So the weapon stays in effect. That's the good part is. But there is now another rule. If we want to take on another monster with the same weapon, we have to use a monster or fight a monster that is lower than the monster we are currently facing with. So 2 obviously is lower than a 9. The problem with this now is there is no other cards lower than 2, and there is a good chance that we may be stumbling upon a monster that is whatever, 7, 5 or so. In this case, I think our better choice would be to go for the healing potion here. So we will immediately drink it. It goes here into our discard pile. So we are healing up to 17 life points again. So now we are down to 1 card, which means this room of the dungeon is done. We are going into the next room. Okay, that's a 10. A 10 is not smaller than a 9, so we can't fight it with this weapon. That is definitely kind of a bummer, but we do have a stronger weapon here. That is something worth considering. Let's see. Okay, that is quite interesting now. The question is, how are we going to deal with it? There are now really various ways. So we could fight the 7 monster with this one here. We would still take 4 points worth of damage because 7 is still smaller than the 3, but at least this monster is smaller than this monster. So that is okay. We could of course also go for the 2 now in this case, but I don't think we want to do that just yet unless we are willing to take the 10 here as our weapon, and maybe that's what I want to do. In order to really take as little damage as possible, we are going to fight this monster here. It's smaller than the 9, and it's even smaller than our weapon, which means we are not taking any wounds. But now we can also see that this weapon here is basically useless because there is no other card smaller than a 2. Aces in this case count like 14 points worth of damage, not a 1 unfortunately. So in this case we are taking as our next action our next weapon, which means we are discarding all these cards here. We are placing that here. And now I think we are simply going to fight this monster. 10 minus 10 is 0, so we are not taking any damage. But this is already the basically room done, and we are moving into the next room. And I really hope things are making sense. So we are exploring the next room. Okay, that is not bad. Ooh, okay, I think this might... Okay. This is the ace. The ace again is a monster worth of 14 points. And to be honest, I was already thinking about coming up with a custom deck of cards where we are not seeing playing cards here, but really actual numbers and maybe some artwork here. But for now, for the time being, I really wanted to show you the game as it is. And I think in this case, things could be relatively straightforward. This is still a very worrisome enemy, but I think we can deal with all 3 of those. So we are going for the 7. It's smaller than the 10. We are okay. We are not taking any damage. Then we are fighting this monster here, and we are fighting this monster here. Again, the room is done, and I believe if we are not extremely lucky in drawing now the 2 of spades, basically, this weapon will be done. And I think this is the strongest weapon we can ever get. Again, we have removed all of these face cards here. Okay, that is not pretty. Okay, that's a healing potion. That could be okay. And we have another weapon here. Okay, that is something we have to think about now, actually. So I guess we are going to equip the new weapon now, actually, right? Yeah, let's do that. So we are going for this weapon. Everything else here is discarded. And then I think we are taking on this monster here. It's a new weapon, which means we can take any monster. It's 14 minus 6, so we're taking 8 points worth of damage. So we are going down to 9 in this case. And I think here it doesn't really matter too much if we're healing first or if we're hitting this monster first, but maybe there is a does. So let's drink the potion first. It goes away, so we're going back up to 18 life points here, and again the room is done. And basically my thought process is that we are now maybe revealing a king or a queen in order. Yes, indeed. So I think... Ooh, there's even a better weapon now. Okay, that is interesting. This is really interesting. So we are going to fight the queen. The queen is, I believe, 12 points worth of damage, right? Yes, indeed. So 12, it's 6 points worth of damage. So we're going down to 12. And I think you shouldn't be too afraid actually to take wounds in this game. Then we are doing the same with a jack. The jack is also smaller than this. The jack is worth 11 points. So we're taking 5 more points worth of damage. So we are down to 7. And then I think, should we actually? Yeah, I think so. Let's go for the 4. Which pretty much means this weapon is done for, but I think I think we're not allowed to look in the deck actually, but this is already the end of the room done. And yeah, I think you see we make our way through the dungeon, but we are also down to 7 life points. Okay, that's a healing potion. Nice. More healing potion. That's now a problem. This is really a problem. And yeah, we are really out of luck in this case. This was a terrible draw. We could fight this monster now barehanded without using our weapon. Then we were taking 5 points natural damage. So even though we have a weapon here, we can still fight this monster. The problem is we might not actually. Let's do that. So we are fighting this monster barehanded. So we are going down to 2 points of life. It's not great. Then we are drinking this potion, so we're going back up to 7. And then I guess because we cannot drink this potion here, we will equip the new weapon, which I think is still a strong weapon. And then we have cleaned off the room. And I really hope things are making sense so far, but I really love this game. It's so nice. Okay, another weapon. Okay. Ooh, very weak enemy. Not sure if we want to do, and a somewhat stronger enemy, but I think we can live with that actually. It's a strong, yeah, but it's still okay. So we are fighting this monster. We have to do it. We are fighting this monster here. We are not taking any damage because they are all low, but then this also means this weapon is basically done. So we are drinking this potion here, which we can now do because we are in a new room, in a new turn. So we are going back up to 11 life points, and we still have a weapon left here. But again, this weapon is done. There's nothing smaller than a 2. So let's carry on. Oof, of course, I mean, they have to come out, right? And I think so far we have seen 1 ace, I believe. We have seen 1 ace. Okay, that might not be too bad, actually. I think this might actually work. Yes, indeed. So we are equipping a new weapon. That is okay. Nicely done. So this is all discarded. And then we are fighting the king. The king is worth 13 points. So we are taking 6 points worth of damage. So we are going down to 5. And then we are drinking this potion, which means we are going back up to 15. And we have a small healing potion left. And we still have a decent weapon here. Well, but this deck is still extremely large, of course. So that's an 8 monster. That's a 4 weapon. And oh, another 9 weapon. Yeah, this didn't work at all, actually. But yeah, we are fighting this monster here. This gives us still 1 life point. So we are going down to 14. No, not giving us, it's taking 1 life point away. But let's drink this potion here for 2. So we are going back up to 16. And I believe, yeah, this is really a waste. This is really a waste, actually. But we will have to equip this weapon now next and go into the next room. How cool is that? Okay, this works. This is, oh, okay, this is not bad. Is it bad? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. So we are fighting this monster, no damage. We are fighting this monster, no damage. And now we have to make a choice. So we could drink this potion here, but then we would forfeit 3 points worth of healing. On the other hand, we could go for this weapon here, but I rather would drink this potion and would hold on for this weapon, wait for this weapon to kick in. So we're going up to 20. Again, any excess is lost. Let's keep going. It's okay, I would say. So we are fighting this monster here for sure. We can't fight this monster. We could always fight them barehanded, of course. Maybe that's something I could have done last round. Maybe I should have. Okay, that is something I missed. Maybe I believe I could have fought this monster barehanded, and then I wouldn't have lost my healing. This is really something. There's not an awful lot of decision making in this game, but every decision that you take really does matter in the end, right? Of course, it's luck driven. You don't know how this deck is staged. So I think you get the idea. But I think we are equipping a new weapon now. So that is fine. We are fighting this monster. So we are taking 6 points worth of damage, going back down to 14. And then we are revealing the next room. Oh, more healing potion. Okay, it's the weakest, one of the weakest weapons. We are fighting this monster here, which gives us 4 points worth of damage. So we are going down to 10 again. So right now we are still standing. We are still standing. That is quite all right. We can't fight the queen right now because, yeah, it's not smaller than an 8. We could still fight her barehanded, but if we would fight her barehanded, we would be dead unless we are healing first, because again, she does 12 points worth of damage and we are down at 10. So that doesn't really work. We could equip this weapon here, of course. I'm not sure if I want to do that. But fighting this queen barehanded, what would the difference be? No, I think we will equip this weapon here. Not sure if that's a good idea. I think this could already have broken the game, actually. We will heal next. So this room is done. So, but at least we are up to 18 life points again. And then we have to reveal the next room. Okay, yeah, that is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. We could now go for this. I think we may have to do that actually, because otherwise we will be pretty much dead. Maybe we are dead anyway. Okay, yeah, let's see. So we are equipping this weapon now. So this is gone. This is basically where you are really depending on how things come out, but I still think that overhealing was our problem. So if we go for the ace, this is doing 14 points worth of damage. So we will take 9 points here. Then we could do the queen. The queen would give us 12 points, minus 5 is 7, and then we are down to 2, and this would kill us. No, we can't go for the ace. That much is clear. So we are going for the queen, and again, the queen is giving us 7 points worth of damage. So we are going down to 12. Nice. Then we are doing this. This is allowed. We still take 2 points worth of damage. So we have to stick to the ace. We still have this weapon here. Let's reveal. Yeah, and that's basically how it goes. Okay, one thing I actually did forget. Maybe this is some. Ooh, so this is something I should have done earlier, but I believe it wouldn't have mattered actually. Yeah, we are now basically dead. What you could do, so far I didn't really have the need to do that. You can basically skip a room. And the way how this works is you basically put these cards, you shove them together, you put them underneath the deck. They will come back in a sort of random order. I typically really shuffle the cards I put down below, and then you will have to engage the same monsters, not necessarily in the same configuration, because again, how the deck is distributed, they could be in one room, these could be in another room. You get the idea. But I think we are now basically super dead. So what we can do is basically kill this monster here, basically for free, because our weapon still stands. Again, 5 versus 5, and it's smaller than the 7 monster here. But now we have 3 monsters more to go. One thing I could still explore, if this is a good healing card, again, I have completely lost track of what is here. I think we want to do that, because this card could still be a healing or maybe a stronger weapon. So again, I will shuffle these cards and we'll put them down here. And now we are engaging the same room. And one other information, you can't skip a room twice in a row, basically. You can do that endless amount of times, but never twice in a row, right? So now we have to face the monster. And indeed, it was still a healing card. I'm not sure if this will change our life, but we will definitely drink this healing potion here. So this brings us back to 16 actually, and I think really counting the cards in this case could be a thing to do. Then I guess we are doing this. Again, this doesn't do any damage to us. And either way, we will pretty much be dead after the next card, right? So we will now have to face one of these monsters. We have to face them barehanded, basically. So we will go for the king. The king is doing 13 points worth of damage. So we are going down to 3. And now we are basically revealing the next card, which we know is an ace. And there is a good amount of debate. What does cleaning the dungeon mean? Because typically the rules are very clear that a room always consists of 4 cards, but I believe you really have to play it until you have at least engaged all the monsters in the dungeon. And honestly, I was never going to assume I was going to make it to the last 2 cards in the deck. So now it doesn't really matter. So we have to fight this monster. We have to fight it barehanded. It does 14 points worth of damage. We are down to 3. So whoop, we are pretty much dead and gone. And yeah, that's basically how you are playing Scoundrel. Again, let me know what you think. Let me know if you heard about this game. I really think it's highly addictive. It's a perfect game to bring on a trip. You don't even need to lose a die, of course. You can track these things with whatever, maybe with the remaining cards that you're not using here somehow. And from what I've seen, I think the rules even say you need a piece of paper and some pen where you're keeping track of that. So various ways, that's the only critical part. But having a deck of cards with you shouldn't be that big of a deal. And it's really, really super fun to play. Again, let me know what you think. And yeah, that's basically Scoundrel. Before I forget, a huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. You guys are truly amazing. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all your support. And now I should maybe mention I was recording this with a new gear. So let me know what you thought about this. Again, ideally you don't really see an awful lot of difference. The best case scenario would be that it's really better. I think the sound is a little bit better. That was one of the ideas here. But apart from that, I really hope you didn't spot too many differences here. And yeah, again, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And until then, bye bye.